You don't play games and things that are extremely serious in life. If you get those things down right, you don't have to worry about anything else. If you take the certain core things and you just focus on them and get them right. The first one is your iman and your aqidah and the people you surround yourself with. The second one is your family life. You gotta make sure that family life, everyone is happy in that family life. And one of the, I can't remember where I was reading, I think it was Sheikh Yahya wrote us at the wedding.
Was at
right?
the wedding.
Yeah, he said, Imam Malik said, the intelligent one, I believe he said, the real man is the one who makes himself the most lovable person in his house.
The Chuck's walima.
You can make yourself lovable. The Prophet ﷺ said, give gifts, sensitivity also. Not talking about things you know is going to hurt them. Not laughing at things you know is going to hurt them. Like oftentimes some guys laugh about this. Oh, I'm going to take a second wife. Like you're hurting somebody. You may think it's funny and you say, I'm not, oh, just a joke. But it's a sensitivity, right? Sensitivity is one way to earn a lot of love in your family. Generosity, forgiveness, and ultimately, you got to give away a lot of time. There's an article in the New York Times. The curse of the new generation is the amount of success they have at their hands. They have so many opportunities. There's no room for kids. And in some cases, so much success. There's no room for a spouse. No room for marriage. Some people are so good at school. They go on from school to medical school. They're so good and they get offered all the fellowships and they get all the way up to the highest levels in their field because they're so smart. But there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, because now those offers are almost too good to refuse. But the moment you accept it, you're actually refusing marriage. And that's what happens. And then what happens when you invest in those and you're 40 years old and you're not married? Are you even marriageable? Honestly, your first marriage is going to be a dry run that's a disaster. You're going to have to learn all the lessons. Hit age 40, you're stuck in your ways. Do you know how much hassle that just a baby is going to cause to you? And you may feel like, I can't take my foot off the pedal. I got to keep going. But the baby's going to take away a lot of your time. Do you have to make a choice? I'm telling you, get things right in your homes, in your deen first. In your deen. Pick someone who agrees with your deen. I'll tell you where deen doesn't matter, where neither of them care. But if both of them care, they need to be on the right opinion, the same opinion. Otherwise, in anything, like if you're both political people, you can't be opposed. You care so much about certain views, you have to have the same views, right? Certain things, my theory, certain things in marriage have to be the same view, and certain things should be opposite. The same view should be in the core things. The opposite view should be in temperament, like I rush and she thinks, right? Like that, temperament. Those things, you make a perfect pair, and both, and your kids also get to see the spectrum. But main views, religious views, whatever you care about, have to be the same. You got to be in agreement on this, right? Or else you're going to have a clash. You get that, your deen right. And when you guys get married, you got to know what to put ahead of of marriage is only deen. That's it. Nothing else should be ahead of it. Career should not be ahead of it. Parents, in a sense, to an area where if it's not taken away from someone else's rights, that's their condition. So, for example, a dad cannot say to his son, I need you to come and join me. We're going on a trip. Oh, but my kids need me here. Don't worry about that. Come. Or a dad cannot say, I need you to divorce this guy. He's a bum, complete bum. Divorce this guy. Or he says to the son, you need to divorce this woman. Or usually it's the mother tells her son, get rid of this woman. There's rights for other people. So you need to be with them, provided that it doesn't aggress upon someone else's rights. Your job with your family, with your parents, is, as Allah says, when they reach old age with you. So a man will be responsible for his mother, father, and in the absence of a son, for his in-laws, then his in-laws too.
Also, Sheikh, on this thing, you notice that a lot of people in marriages, the reason it doesn't work out is because they don't have the same playbook.
They don't have the same playbook.
That's why you need to both be on the same page. You need to have, okay, when we have a disagreement, where do we go back to? That's what you see in the modern day and age, right? You have this person's operating on this framework, and the husband's on a different framework. So when they disagree, it's like, how do you solve a problem?
You have to have the same usul, meaning when there is a question in life, where do we go back to? Right? The questions about life, question about right and wrong. Like, what's our resource? We don't have to know the answers, but we have to know the resource. Like, this is the law book right here. If when there's a dispute about right and wrong, this is where we go. And then there's some that's not going to be in the law book. Like, which school are we going to go to is not going to be in the deen. Which specific thing are we going to do? Which home are we going to get? Which neighbors are we going to choose to live next to? All those types of things. So now you need a methodology. And I'm telling you, the best methodology is in one of the heart, which is sensitivity to the person in front of you.
You know what they do in Malaysia, my brothers and my sisters? That you have to do a course before the marriage. We're actually discussing this today. It may well be something that we have to start incorporating into our society. That you don't get married till you go through that marriage course. And as I mentioned today in the khutbah, my brothers and my sisters, many young men and women, they don't know how to be husbands and wives. They don't. Right? And the divorce rates are going through the roof. The same way you learn about how to make wudu and how to perform the salah, you have to also learn how to be husband and wife. Right? You have to learn how to be a husband and wife. Right? This is very, very crucial. Allahu A'lam. So before and even after getting married, you just discovered that you need to learn how to be husband and wife. Take a course from credible individuals that are qualified, whether you may be in Islam and those who have experience. This is important. Sometimes a sister gives advice to another sister, you should leave him, I can't believe you're still with him. After he's done one or two things. When the mas'ala is sahla, is easy to solve, she's basing it off her experience. And sometimes guys behave like this. He had a bad experience, he went through divorce. Wallahi, I one time even heard a professor saying this: all women are devils. A'udhu billah mink, ant. You insulted my wife as well? Or my mother? Ma yasrah. What do you mean all women are devils? He had a bad experience, now he's generalizing. Why'd you guys all look confused when I said that? I don't know what you are going through, Allahu A'lam. Shahid min al-kalam, this is problematic, making these generalized statements or sweeping statements.
So you look at it like a pyramid, and you and your partner are on the bottom, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is at the top. And the understanding is that as you and your partner grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you also grow closer to each other. And one of the other scholars said to us that you want to marry somebody who's going to drag you to Jannah. And upon first hearing that, the reaction is, drag you to Jannah? That doesn't sound very nice, like it sounds kind of violent and forceful. What does that mean? But what it actually is indicating is that getting to Jannah isn't easy. And there's going to be times that you're going to feel discouraged. There's going to be times you're going to want to give up. There's going to be times when you're going to be lazy. And you're going to want a partner who's going to encourage you and motivate you and tell you, no, we can do this. We're going to do this together, inshallah. So each partner wants to be that for the other. Somebody who's going to drag the other to Jannah. And so we want to look at our lives like a pyramid where we and our partner are down here on the bottom and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is at the top. And we also want to look at our circles of concern. And in the core of our circles of concern, in the core is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always making sure that His rights are met. And then after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we look at our husbands, and men look at their wives and their parents, who are also their responsibility. And then after that, our children. After that, our teachers and our scholars and our neighbors. And after that, the greater community. And what happens sometimes is that people get the order of priorities mixed up. And that's when you see the barakah leaving the marriage, where maybe we end up spending all our time giving it to the community and we're not looking at what our children need. Or maybe we're giving all our time to our best friends and we're not looking at what our husband needs. So it's important to make sure that we look at our circles of concern and we make sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is in the center of it all. You want to pray together and for one another supplicating every step of the way. So anytime there's any major decisions to be made in the marriage, praying Salatul Istikhara together. Anytime you have a major need, praying Salatul Hajjah. Salatul Hajjah is the prayer of need. Salatul Istikhara is the prayer of guidance. I know somebody who, before they even buy a refrigerator, they will first, even if they've decided this is the refrigerator we want to get, they'll still pray Istikhara in order to put barakah in the decision. So again, showing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the top priority, first and foremost. Like Husai said earlier, that you want to make your marriage a means of drawing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So your marriage is just another act of ibadah. And so you don't look at it as how much is he doing for me versus how much am I doing for him. You look at it more as what am I doing that's going to be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want to have big intentions, and you're not, when you make big intentions and have big intentions, you're not keeping score. When you keep score, that is what brings bitterness and resentment into the marriage. So seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure and His approval is what's going to get, inshallah, all of us on the right track. Okay, so the first section was make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your number one love. The second section is work on increasing your love and affection. Men should know that women need affection. It's a primary need for women. And so we want to follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ. There was a reason that he encouraged spouses to hold hands and to feed one another from the same plate. Just like any other blessing, marriage can start to feel stale. It can start to feel old. You can start to take it for granted. But these types of intimate gestures help reinvigorate the marriage. You want to take note of the 5 languages of love. There's a book out there that you can find that discusses the 5 languages of love. But a quick synopsis is that there's 5 ways that men and women show love to one another. 5 ways all human beings show love to one another. And the way people show love is by providing service, by giving your time, by giving verbal praise and affirmation, by giving physical affection, and by giving gifts. These are the 5 languages of love. And you want to see which language of love your spouse is utilizing on you. If you have a different language of love, your spouse may not notice your language of love because they can't hear it because you're speaking a different language. And I'll give you a case in point. My love language is verbal affirmation. Big surprise. I'm big about talking, right? And telling people how much I appreciate them, writing about how much I appreciate them and love them. My husband's language of love is service. He doesn't talk much about how much he loves you. He's just quietly doing what needs to be done. And the times that my husband and I butt heads or we have a conflict, it's usually when we're speaking different languages of love and we're not hearing each other. So mine might be, I made an effort to look nice and you didn't say anything about how pretty I look, or you didn't say anything about how delicious my food is that I made for you today. And an example of a time when he was frustrated with me was when I borrowed his car and I came back and the gas tank was on empty, because that's something he would never do. He would never leave me with an empty tank of gas. And so to him, it was a sign of inconsideration for me to overlook the fact that I was leaving him with an empty gas tank, because he's all about service. So for me, in order to make sure that my husband feels loved, I have to get out of my comfort zone and do what I know my husband would do to show his love to me. And he gets out of his comfort zone, inshallah, and tries to make more of an effort of talking about things that I might want to hear from him. Another big need for women is the need for intimate conversation. They say that men fall in love with their eyes and women fall in love with their ears. And there's truth to that. There's a reason women love poetry, and there's a reason women love deep and intimate conversations, and why they like to get on the phone with their friends and talk to them for a long time. Whereas husbands are just fine, hearing the basic details of what's going on, the basic points, and not going into too many details. So that's something for men to keep in mind, that women need intimate conversation and they need undivided attention when you are talking to them. So you want to establish a routine or a tradition that nobody else is allowed to get in the way of. So not work, not your parents, not your children. For some couples, it might be Sunday morning brunch. For others, it might be after dinner tea. Others may choose to go on an evening walk or read aloud to one another when they're in bed. There are many who've established a designated date night in their weekly schedule. The point is, you want to have something special just for you two, and then you want to jealously guard it. It should be something that you both will miss if it ever gets taken away.